You don't have a shortage of good images. You have a shortage of decisions about which ones belong together. 10 strong photographs chosen wrong will never make a series. Most photographers make the same mistake when they return from a trip like the one I just finished. Walking the old quarter of Hoi An, the tombs and citadel walls of Hue, and the working beach of Da Nang. They open the folder, they find 10 or 20 frames that are technically the strongest, and they call that the set. Sharp focus, clean exposure, and good light. Each one earns its place on its own merit. The instinct is not wrong, it's simply incomplete. A photograph can be flawless in isolation, and still weaken everything placed beside it. I've made this mistake myself, more than once, choosing an image because I was proud of how hard it was to get, not because it belonged in the story I was actually telling. The real cost is quiet. Nobody tells you a portfolio failed. People simply scroll past it a little faster than you've hoped. They feel something is missing without being able to name it. Usually what is missing is not a better photograph. It's a decision you never made about what these 10 images together are trying to say. Most photographers assume the fix is more images, more trips, more chances to get the one frame that finally proves something. It costs you money on gear you don't need and time on travel you can't always afford. And it never really solves the problem because the problem was never a shortage of good frames. You likely already have 10 strong images sitting in a folder right now from a trip you took months ago that have never been once assembled into anything a stranger would sit through. That's the thing that stings a little, and I say it with no judgment attached, because I have sat with the same folder myself. The images were good, the story was not there. The gap between those two facts is not a talent problem, it's a curation problem. And curation can be taught the same way exposure and composition can be taught. There are 3 principles that separate a good folder of pictures from a series that actually tells a story. I use all 3 on every trip. I used all 3 on this one. The first principle is the common thread. Every strong series built around one element that repeats across every frame. It can be the quality of light, a color that keeps returning, or a subject seen from different angles, or a vantage point the viewer becomes to recognize by the 3rd or 4th image. In Hoi An, it was the way the morning light entered every doorway and every lantern shop at the same low, warm angle, frame after frame, whether I was photographing a tailor's storefront or a bowl of noodles cooling on a wooden table. The common thread works because the eye is built to see pattern, not variety. 10 unrelated strong images ask the viewer to reset 10 times. 10 images built around one thread ask the viewer to settle once and stay. The mind needs a thread as a single sustained thought. It reads randomness as 10 separate demands for attention, and it grows tired quickly, no matter how good any one frame tends to be. The field action is simple, and it happens before you shoot, not after you get home. Name the thread in one sentence before you open the folder. In Hue, it was not the citadel itself, and it was not the people itself. It was the tension between the two. A woman in white sitting inside a corridor built centuries before she ever stood in it. A grandmother wrapped in fanned red and yellow incense sticks she had sold her whole life. Once I could say that sentence out loud, choosing became fast. Anything that gave me the architecture alone or the portrait alone, no matter how sharp or well exposed, was already out before I opened the editing software. The second principle is that the edit is the story, not any single frame inside it. Sequence changes meaning. The same 10 images placed in a different order tell a different story. Sometimes a weaker one, and sometimes a stronger one, but never the same one twice. A viewer experiences a series across time, one frame after another, the way they would move through a room or read a page. The arc lives in the arrangement, not in any one exposure. This works because expectation only builds through sequence. An opening frame invites the viewer in. A middle section complicates or deepens what is promised. A closing frame answers the question the opening frame quietly raised. No individual photograph, no matter how strong, can do all 3 jobs alone. That's the work of the edit, not the work of the camera, and it happens at the desk, not in the field. The field action here is physical, and I mean that literally. Lay out your candidates on a line, on a table, on a light box, or on a screen. It doesn't matter which surface you use. Move them until the first frame earns attention honestly. The middle frames build tension or texture without repeating themselves, and the final frame settles something without stating it outright. In Da Nang, I moved the same 9 frames 4 separate times before the 10th frame. A fisherman with his catch, in early evening, finally told me exactly where the series needed to end. The third principle is subtraction as a craft, and it is the hardest one of the 3 because it costs you something you already own. Every set will contain images that are technically strong and simply don't serve the thread you named. The instinct is to keep them anyway, because they're good, because they are difficult to get, because you are proud of the effort behind them. That instinct has to lose every time without exception. Subtraction works because every image that doesn't serve the thread quietly dilutes the ones that do. Addition feels safe. It feels generous, like you're protecting your best work from being left behind. But the series is judged as a whole, and the one photograph pulling against the thread weakens all 9 images around it, even though none of those 9 changed at all. The field action is a rule and not a suggestion. The rules are easier to follow than feelings. For every 10 images you commit to, set a minimum of 3 that are good, but do not serve the thread, and leave them out with no exceptions, and no sentimental appeals. I did this in Da Nang with a sunrise over the harbor. Technically, it was one of my strongest frames of the entire trip, the kind of sky that stops a scroll on its own. It had no people in it, and the thread running through every other image was human labor in warm light. It didn't survive the edit, and the finished series is stronger for its absence. The stakes here are not only aesthetic. A folder of strong but unrelated images will rarely carry a gallery wall, a print sale, or a workshop application the way a coherent series will. People don't commission a photographer for scattered talent. They commission a photographer whose work already tells them what a Vietnam series or an Okanagan series or any other series at all will feel like before it exists. Curation isn't a decoration added on top of the work, it's part of the work, and it gets you hired, and it's part of the work that gets you paid. Before I show you the rebuild, ask yourself the same question about your own last set of 10. Open that folder in your head right now, the one you haven't touched since the trip ended. Name that thread out loud. If you can't in one sentence, that's not a failure. It's simply the next skill waiting to be built. And that's the one we're building right now together. Let me show you what it looks like done wrong and then done right. Using 10 real frames from the Da Nang beach. The first path, chosen the way most of us choose, favors the strongest individual images regardless of a relationship. A basket boat standing against the sand, a closed texture of a woven palm caught against a blue balcony in open sea. A single feature stretched into a dramatic silhouette against a row of baskets on the sand. Each frame on its own is good. Viewed together, they pull the eye in different directions and settle nowhere. The second pass starts with a thread named first, human labor in warm light, before a single image is chosen. The palm texture is gone, the silhouette on the beach is gone. None of them carried the thread no matter how much each one impressed on its own. What remains are 10 images that built one direction, opening on a boat alone on the sand under a warm sky, and closing on a fisherman looking straight into the lens, both hands raised, the light fully arrived. That's the shift I want you to leave with today. You're not only a photographer standing in front of a scene, deciding what to capture. You're also an editor sitting in front of a folder, deciding what earns its place. Both roles matter, and only one of them is usually trained. There's no shame in having built portfolios the old way, choosing your best individual frames and hoping they would somehow add up to something on their own. Almost everyone starts there, myself included. The capability you're building now is simply hard to state, and harder to practice consistently. Before your next shoot ends, ask yourself what these 10 images together are trying to say, instead of asking which ones are simply your best. Most of the editing happens away from the camera entirely, sorting the full set in Bridge and finishing the final look in DxO Photo Lab together with the Nik collection, where I can see the thread clearly across a whole series before I commit to any final 10. A stray highlight or an inconsistent white balance can break a thread just as easily as the wrong subject can. So the finishing pass matters as much as the selection pass. If you want to see how that workflow actually runs in practice, DxO Photo Lab and Nik Collection are the software in my own editing chain. And the code, Steve Austin, will get you a 15% off at checkout. If this idea that curation is a real and teachable skill rather than an afterthought, and is one that you want to go deeper on, there's an ebook on my website called The Intentional Landscape. It walks through exactly how I capture these kind of images. The link is in the description. If this channel resonates with you, stay with the work. Like the video and subscribe. Keep watching as the journey unfolds. The light doesn't wait, and neither should we.